Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the movie of What If Naruto Was Demon. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. It was a normal afternoon in Konoha, at the Shinobi Academy. During the students' lunch break, a number of students were commenting about a pair of very particular students. One was Naruto Uzumaki, whom was dubbed the dead last of the academy, and said Uzumaki's head was resting in the lap of one student, Ayanma, a mysterious girl that had recently transferred a few days ago. She was exceedingly quiet, often fading into the background of the class. She was so pretty she could have had almost any boy she wanted in class. Even Sasuke openly expressed interest in her for some reason. But instead she hooked up with the dead last of all people. It was bizarre. A number of the male students looked on in jealousy as Ai looked down on the blonde with her crimson eyes, running a hand through his hair in affection. "They're giving us odd looks again," mumbled Naruto as his eyes opened slowly. The black-haired girl asked him, "Does it bother you?" Naruto grinned, replying to her, "Nope. In fact, I relish in it." She nodded as he got up, a number of jealous stares in his direction. Naruto smiled darkly as he recalled how and why Ai was with him. 13 days ago, Naruto was walking home one afternoon after school. He was tired and fed up with the constant bullying of Sasuke and his ever-loyal followers, the apathy of Iruka, and everything in between. On his way home he had bumped into a woman. He recognized her as a Jonin, but couldn't put a name to a face. "You okay there, rough day?" she asked in a kind tone. The blonde could tell she was being genuinely nice and nodded. She noted his silence, fully aware of the discrimination he faced due to his status as a Jinchuriki, so naturally he wouldn't trust easily. She smiled and spoke, "You know, if there's someone you hate so much that you would want them to go to hell, you can contact the Hell Girl." "Hell Girl?" the whiskered teen asked in curiosity. The female Jonin nodded and explained, "If you leave a blank envelope in your mailbox at midnight with the name of the person you hate, then he or she shall be sent to hell by the Hell Girl." The blonde was quite skeptical. He had pulled numerous pranks, but this one was simple yet oddly elaborate. He simply nodded and continued on his way, though what she had told him made the gears in his head turn. What if it were true? What if he could punish someone that torments him? Who would he even pick? Sakura often beat him for no apparent reason. Sasuke always bullied him and used him as a punching bag in class spars. Iruka and Mizuki did nothing at all to help his grades or his control over the damn clone jutsu that his potent chakra kept causing to backfire into pale and sickly versions. At last he had arrived home. With a growl he grabbed an envelope and piece of paper and a pen. He thought long and hard on who should be the unfortunate one to be sent to hell. He sat there, for hours, digging around in his memories for whomever he thought deserved to die. He couldn't possibly narrow it down to a single person. So, he chose to write down Konohagakure. With that he placed it in the envelope and sealed it closed. It was almost midnight as he went to his mailbox. He tapped his foot impatiently as he kept glancing at a small alarm clock he brought with him. When it struck midnight, he put the envelope inside and closed it inside the mailbox. In that instant a gust of wind nearly blew him off his feet. Startled, he opened the mailbox, to find it empty. Holy, it really worked, he mumbled to himself in utter surprise. In the realm of eternal twilight, Ayanma sat in her room. A bell had chimed, signaling the arrival of a request. She dressed in her usual black kimono with patterns, but the envelope didn't arrive. "Sorry Ai, but this request is unusual in nature," spoke a deep voice she could only identify as the Master of Hell. "Unusual?" she asked in a curious tone. It wasn't often that the Master of Hell spoke to her directly like this. Indeed, it seems the intended victim of the client's grudge is an entire village, and said client is a Jinchuriki, explained the disembodied voice of the one who branded her as the Hell Girl. Ai's eyes widened ever so slightly. She had never in her entire existence as the Hell Girl gotten such a request. It was almost unreal. No one had ever requested an entire village to be sent to hell. The Master of Hell HM'd for a moment, then spoke, "This is a rather precarious situation. I shall see to this myself for now. Wait here until I summon you." She nodded as the god of hell went on his way to the human realm. Back with Naruto. Naruto woke up in the middle of the night, sweating after another nightmare of the mobs that chased after him. He swallowed dryly and got out of bed to get a drink to soothe his parched throat. When he entered the living room of his apartment he noticed a silhouette sitting on his couch. The blonde slowly turned and yelped in surprise when he saw a man sitting there silently, the moonlight shining behind him but masking his face in darkness. "Who the hell are you?" The man folded his hands and replied in a deep voice, "Calm yourself, boy. You sent a letter to the Hell Girl." Naruto slowly nodded, asking, "What's that got to do with you?" The figure casually replied in the most simple of terms, "I am her benefactor, you might say. I am here to discuss the unusual nature of your request." "Unusual how?" asked the whiskered teen, unsure of how to handle this situation. The Master of Hell answered, "To be direct, the services of the Hell Girl was solely focused on the punishment of a singular individual of whom the client has been tormented by. The victim is sent to hell, and the client has a mark placed on him or her, so that when they die, they too shall go to hell. Those are the rules. You, however, have damned an entire village. This alone makes this unusual, and even more so due to your status as a Jinchuriki." The blonde teen raised an eyebrow as the figure explained, "Simply put, Biju wouldn't be inclined to let you go that easily, so marking you for your end of the contract is useless. Naruto crossed his arms and muttered, so my soul is out of your reach, how then is there some other way to pay for my request? The figure thought for a few moments, then answered, there might be. These circumstances are unique in nature. What if I told you I could grant you the power of the deal? The Jinchuriki raised an eyebrow at that, asking slowly, power of the deal? The god of hell replied, correct. Simply put, you can make deals with humans and grant them their heart's desire for a fee, their souls and whatever else you may want from them, depending on their capabilities or possessions. My price for granting you this power is 30% of your collected souls. If you truly wish to hold on to certain ones, then you can convert them into a demon to be your servants. Accept this in my price, and the Hell Girl shall be your subordinate and grant your request. 1 human at a time. The blonde was silent. If he had this power, then he could turn these deals to his advantage. Hold on. Why would I even bother collecting souls? The master of hell grinned, showing a row of sharp teeth as he replied, I think the much better question is, why should you not? Do you have any idea of the value of a soul? All their knowledge, experience, memories, and emotions in a raw and pure energy. I'd say that would be worth something to whomever understands the true value of a soul. The blonde was silent once again, then replied with determination, give me this power. I accept your terms. 30% of the souls are yours. You can collect on them once a year. The room faded to pitch black as a disembodied voice rumbled, consider it done. Enjoy yourself, king of the Crossroads. In the present, Naruto broke out of his memory as AI fed him, carefully putting bits of chicken in his mouth, causing the male students around to growl in anger. Is everything all right, Naruto-sama? She asked him in her usual cold and flat tone. The blonde chewed for a moment, then swallowed, answering her, fine. Just remembering something. King of the Crossroads is more than just a title. Come with a few perks. She nodded. It had been some time since a king of the Crossroads had been chosen, but they were a force of nature said to create chaos. Now I need to find a potential customer to test my new powers on, he muttered to himself. Out of the corner of his eye he spotted one Ino Yamanaka. She was a Sasuke fangirl, but also not to the point she was one of those mindless squealing pigs. She would make a good trial run. AI, bring Ino over here, the blonde ordered, making his new subordinate nod and bow. When she returned she had Ino in tow, the blonde girl asking, all right, I am here. What do you need, Naruto? The whiskered teen replied back, maybe I just want to talk, sweetheart. She blushed slightly at that, wondering if he was hitting on her in front of his supposed girlfriend. She glanced to her right and saw AI was looking on with an impassive face. What about? She asked in a slightly nervous tone, eyes staring, making her uneasy. Naruto smiled as he asked her in a businesslike tone, would you like to make a deal? The heiress looked at him oddly for a moment. Deal? She asked, unsure of what to make of what her classmate had said. Exactly. So tell me, what is it you want most? The newly dubbed king of the Crossroads asked. Ino thought for a moment, thinking it was some kind of joke. She decided to play along and say, I would like Mizukai-sensei to lose his job, go to jail, and never be heard from again. I heard from some of the girls he's been touching them inappropriately, and I noticed he keeps giving Hinata these looks. The Jinchuriki grinned as he replied, consider it done. Now here's my fee, your soul. Ino gulped slightly at that, but still believed it to be a prank as she nodded, answering deal. At last the Hell Girl chose to speak now. To seal the deal, as required. Ino blushed furiously as steam threatened to vent out of her ears. Was this part of the prank too, or was it an open relationship type thing? With a groan she crashed her lips to her fellow blondes. All of a sudden she felt a slight burning sensation in her hand. When she broke there was a swirl mark on her palm, much like the one on the back of Uruka's and all other Chunin vest. The hell is this? Ino asked as she furiously tried to rub off the black mark. Your soul belongs to Naruto-sama. That is his mark. You are his now. You can no longer refuse him. And by the way, I lied by omission. It is but one of several ways to seal a deal. Then why did you say it was required? Screamed Ino in despair, carelessly giving her first. The crimson-eyed girl replied, I wanted to see your reaction. Be grateful I didn't say you will intercourse. Ino wailed as a waterfall of anime tears gushed out. You assholes, I'll make you pay for this. This got on Naruto's nerves as he ordered stop crying and shut up. On command, Ino's eyes ceased shedding tears and her mouth clamped shut. Her eyes widened in realization. Whatever he did with that mark, it was actually working. She tried so desperately to speak, but her mouth remained shut tight. She then used her finger to trace the words, let me go in the dirt. AI shook her head and explained, not possible. Once a contract is made, there's no going back. You unwittingly signed away your dreams, hopes, body, life, and soul to Naruto-sama. He owns you now, and there's nothing you can do. Ino was on the verge of having a mental breakdown. Naruto patted her shoulder and said, don't worry, I won't do anything bad to you. No, I need to fulfill my end of the bargain. AI, take care of it. The crimson-eyed girl nodded as she headed towards the building. Naruto took his fellow blonde into the bushes and said, sorry for any clumsiness. This is my first time converting a human soul into a demon, and if it means anything to you, you'll thank me later. With AI walked through the academy and found Mizuki unfairly grading the students' tests, giving Sasuke a free pass and Naruto failing marks. She approached and said, Sensei, could I have a word with you? The silver-haired Chunin immediately put on his good teacher facade and said to her, certainly, Anmasen. Something I can do for you? She nodded and spoke, feigning worry. Yes. I'm new here and I'm afraid that my grades might be bad since I transferred in the middle of the school year. A dark smirk suddenly etched onto the Chunin's face as he got up from his desk and approached her. Oh, we can't have that. You have such promise. He spoke in kind tone. She nodded and asked, is there a way to ensure the grades of my written tests stay up? Mizuki smiled ever wider. Ayama was a beauty amongst her students, yet she wasted her affection on the demon brat. Perhaps he could for her into a situation where he could use her for his pleasure and the demon brat's torment. He grabbed a lock of her black hair between her fingers and spoke, in his lips. Perhaps there is a way. Provided you help me with a little something. Ai looked at him with cold, impassive eyes, then stabbed him in the neck with a pencil, then let out a shrill shriek, making Mizuki stumble back and alerting the other faculty. Uruka came running in and saw a sobbing Ai, and he saw Mizuki with a handful of her hair torn out by the roots, gripping at a pencil in his neck. The scarred Chunin pieced together what he believed to have happened, then called the authorities. A few minutes later, one Anko Mitarashi arrived with a medical team to stabilize the injured Chunin. Friggin' pedo bastard, Anko muttered bitterly as she spat on him. Mizuki attempted to speak, to explain that Ai had attacked him, but nothing came out except gurgling noises as he was taken away to prison. Ai looked on, her ripped-out hair having regenerated. Contract complete, she muttered as she returned to her master's side. In the bushes, Naruto stood over Ino, the former saying, "Heh. That was much easier than I thought. Enjoy the show, Anachan." You did that?" asked Ino, having witnessed the arrest. Ai nodded and spoke. The terms of the contract stated you wished for him to lose his job, be sent to jail, and never be heard from again. Those conditions have been met. Ino could barely respond after the hell she had been through. Every single muscle in her body felt like it had rocks grounding inside before it all imploded. Now she didn't have the strength to move, but something felt different, and she suddenly had a craving for meat. Naruto grinned as he snapped his fingers, making Ino vanish and appear on her family doorstep. Perks indeed. And I think I found a new customer and employee, he muttered as he gazed at Anko as she questioned Uruka, grilling him for information. A very good employee, he confirmed to himself as he and Ai headed home. All the while Konoha was unaware of the two supernatural residents in its midst. One evening, one Anko Mitarashi was sitting alone in a bar, chugging down shots of alcohol. She had a particularly bad day. She had once again requested to take on a team of her own since graduation was coming up shortly. Her promotion to full jonin was denied and she had to play babysitter for Jiraiya when he returned to the village. He had duly harassed her all damn day. The only thing keeping her from castrating the pervert was the fact if she assaulted him then she'd be branded a missing nin. What had her truly upset was that the frog Sannin had claimed he found a way to remove her curse mark. But there was a price tag. He would remove it if she slept with him. Anko, more than anything, desired to have the mark removed, but she wasn't going to go as far as throwing away her pride and virginity. Yes, virginity. Anko Mitarashi was and still is a virgin. And now here she was hoping to drown her frustration in booze. She heard a clunk sound at a table behind her. When she looked, it was one of the patrons passing out. She laughed and cracked a joke about him being a lightweight. Then a series of thuds sounded through the bar as everyone, including the barkeeper, inexplicably passed out. She slowly reached for a kunai, then heard liquid pouring into her shot glass. She turned and saw one Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in an all-black business suit getup with a crimson tie and a black trench coat. "What's your pleasure, Ankasan?" he spoke with a grin. Her mouth opened and closed as the sound of a lock sing occurred at the front door, showing Ayama had locked it to prevent people from entering. The snake user then addressed the blonde. "What in the hell is going on here, Gaki?" The king of the Crossroads chuckled as he replied, "Funny you should mention hell. See, I'm in a new business. In order to run a new business, I need customers. In order to get customers, I need to provide quality service." The Jonin woman looked at him as though he had grown a second head as she asked, "You running a business, you ing with me?" Naruto smirked as he casually answered, "No, I am not ing with you, unless you like them young." And that she blushed harshly and demanded, "Shut up, this some kind of weird prank of yours?" The blonde shook his head and answered her, "Nope. That word from Jivine that Jiraiya made you an offer, with a questionable price." The purple-haired woman sweated slightly at that. It was no surprise to her that word had spread about what was going on. Naruto smiled further as he spoke, "I am here to extend the same offer, with a far more reasonable price." Anko raised an eyebrow. She knew the kid personally. She had allowed him to crash at her place several times whenever people gave him a hard time. In a lot of ways he reminded her of herself, lost and alone, seeking purpose in a place that doesn't want them. And right now, there was a certain clarity to Naruto's eyes. "Christ, how can't you just do an old friend a solid?" she asked as she drank down another shot, which the blonde refilled. "Normally, I would, but can't. Love to, but can't. Them's the rules. No getting around it," he explained as he filled her glass. She sighed, knowing that Naruto wouldn't be charging a friend without reason. "Fine. What do you want, ramen? Some training jutsu?" "A damn," she asked, with the last part to get a rise out of him. He didn't so much as blush when he answered her, "Your soul." The snake user nearly did a spit take at that. For a moment she thought he was just screwing with her, but she could tell that he was dead serious. Jiraiya wanted to bang her, but Naruto wanted her soul. "Are you shitting me?" The blonde shook his head and explained, "Allow me to explain. See, I am now in a rather spectacular position. I am now dubbed the King of the Crossroads. See, when I collect a soul, I have the option of converting it into a demon and make said demon my employee, which I intend to do to you. Anko slammed her fists on the table angrily and demanded, so you want to make me a slave? Naruto simply grinned, replying, funny you should mention that. So long as a claimed soul remains human, they are in every sense of the term, slaves. But once converted into a demon, while bound to me, they regain free will. Like Ino over there. He pointed to a corner booth, revealing the heiress was chomping down on a huge stack of steaks. Holy crap, you know how long I have been trying to get those fangirls to eat properly, now she's eating steaks, exclaimed Anko in shock. Ino heard the snake user and shouted, screw you, I'm hungry, then resumed eating the platter of meat. AI mentioned something about how her now demonic body is seeking nutrients she lacked before, hence her sudden hunger, explained the King of the Crossroads as he kept his gaze on Anko. The snake user thought for a moment Jiraiya was a sleazy pervert looking to pop his cherry, but Naruto was upfront with his intentions, and what if he could really do it? Assuming her longtime friend could perform his end of the bargain, she wouldn't have to sell out her pride or body to a sick pervert, who likely wouldn't even remove the curse mark at all. Alright, I'll deal my soul in service for the removal of the curse mark. The whiskered teen grinned and said, done and done. He then grabbed the back of her head and slammed his lips to hers. The snake user at first tried to resist but allowed it to happen since it felt natural. When they parted, the blonde spoke, welcome to my employment, Anko. I'll convert your soul tomorrow after school. With that he snapped his fingers, signaling AI and Ino it was time to leave. Hey, what about the curse mark, you asshole, shouted Anko in fury, believing that she had been ripped off. As the three exited the bar, AI looked over her shoulder for a moment and asked what mark, and with that, exited out through the now unlocked door. Anko was perplexed, then ran to the restroom and pulled down the collar of her shirt, and found the curse mark she had been forced to carry was gone at long last. Oh my holy god, he really did it. He actually did it, she muttered in shock. Tears streamed down her face in joy, then a broad face-splitting grin appeared on her face as she began laughing almost maniacally long into the night. The next day, is she still laughing, asked one Kurenai Yuyuhi as she visited a local hospital, of which Anko was admitted after she had been discovered in the restroom laughing her ass off and pounding the wall hysterically and screaming to the high heavens in between laughter, it's off, it's off, it's finally off. It didn't take long for it to be discovered that the curse mark, its tainted chakra, and all traces of it had been removed from her body and chakra network. With the genjutsu was one Hana and Yuzuka who replied yep. Still laughing. I think she might have snapped. A third woman known as Yugao Akaniko chirped and agreed. I think the removal of the mark drove her mad. From her room the laughing snake mistress could still hear them and shouted out to them, wrong, it drove me happy, ha ha ha. The three Kunoichi groaned. Their longtime friend had been cackling for hours on end, and it didn't appear she would be stopping for some time. Meanwhile Inoto, Orochimaru, was grumbling in his laboratory. He was currently contemplating whether or not to scrap a certain project. Kira, a girl he had cloned from his own DNA to create a perfect vessel. However, for reasons unknown, her body rejected the curse mark, making it fizzle out on contact. So then he decided to try and train her to be the ultimate killing machine, in his mission to create a weapon for his own use. He had unwittingly created a true-to-life horror that even rivaled the evil Uzumaki. Kira felt nothing. She didn't feel pain, or fear, or remorse, or pity, or compassion, much less understand those things. She was pure animal instinct, and he had absolutely no control over her. A week ago she had ripped out one of his shinobi's throat with her teeth and then ate him. She was, in short, a cannibalistic sociopath with no regard for human life. He heard a series of footsteps behind him and he muttered, if you aren't Kabuto-kun, go away or I'll kill you. The person laughed and spoke in a feminine tone with an icy edge to her voice. That any way to treat an old friend, Yukichin. A sharp shiver ran up his spine. There was only one woman that called him that name. He turned on his heel and then a look of horror appeared on his face. Not possible. Not possible. You died, you're dead. He pointed at the form of Kushina, the evil Uzumaki. If it means anything, I was clinically dead for nearly 4 hours. Woke up in a morgue. I think they were going to cremate me. Assholes. No respect for the true superior clan. The red-haired woman spoke casually as tapped her sheathed katana against her shoulder. Where have you been all these years? Asked the Sannin as he slowly made his way to a panic button hidden under his desk. The Uzumaki woman replied, where do you think? Been traveling around. Training. Growing stronger. Took a few selection individuals under my wing. And don't even think of reaching for that panic button. The snake Sannin froze up. He knew Kushina wasn't a fool. What about your child? I know he survived. A dark crimson glimmer flashed in the red-haired woman's eyes as she replied, I never forgot about him. I wanted to take him. It pained me every single day. But he needed to stay in order to develop his own grudge against Konoha. The Sannin raised an eyebrow in confusion, making her continue. If I were to take him as a baby and teach him, then the most likely scenario would be that Konoha would take him, and then depict me as the real villain. I have done things. I have scalped, mutilated, maimed, castrated, tortured for business and pleasure, murdered, burned alive, poisoned and drowned all of my enemies. I enjoyed it all. The one thing I have ever regretted was damning my child to the most backwards and vile cesspool in all the world. Konoha. Her attention then went to the capsule the clone rested inside. She grinned and approached it, saying, "Now what do we have here? Something you cooked up in a petri dish? Maybe I should pop it open." The Sanin's eyes widened as he shouted in panic, "Kushina, no matter what, do not open that, please, I'm begging you." The violet-eyed woman smirked as she asked, "Oh, why shouldn't I?" The snake Sanin sweated bullets, replying, "Please, you must understand, Kira is too unstable. I have trained her to be a killer, and instead she became a cannibalistic sociopath. She is incapable of feeling remorse or pity. Please, Kushina, no matter what, do not open that. There's nothing that can control her. She has raised down shinobi-protected villages." The redhead med for a moment, then spoke, "Sounds interesting. I think I'll wake up Sleeping Beauty. I'll need her for Konoha's destruction." "No, you don't know what you're doing. Kira has nothing but animal instinct. She has no concept of authority," screamed the Sanin in terror. "Animal's instinct, eh? Then it's not a matter of authority, but of dominance. Perhaps she needs an alpha to keep her in check. And you didn't fit the bill. What were you planning on doing, killing her with a damn valve like the slimy coward you are?" asked the Uzumaki as she traced a hand across the glass of the capsule. "Please, Kushina, there is not a single shinobi in the world that can contain such brutality," yelped Orochimaru, pleading for Kira to be contained. Kushina glared at him and demanded angrily, "Who the hell do you take me for, you pasty-faced pedo? I am Kushina, the evil Uzumaki, heiress of the Uzumaki clan. It was I that finished the Hurricane formula. It was I that created the Rasengan, not Minato. Minato was little more than a stooge. He was little more than my sissy. I made him Hokage. I put him in the Hokage seat. It was all me. He had no idea how to run a village. He was pathetic. The only reason I ever copulated with him was because he was the only one with half-decent genes that wouldn't pollute my child's DNA. Too much, but I fully intend to burn out those worthless genes." You are insane," mumbled the Sanin. He knew Kushina was the real political power behind Minato's reign, but she had molded him into her puppet. He knew she couldn't become Hokage herself due to her status as a foreign Konoichi. "Am I watching your entire clan and village burn as the ones who were our allies stood by and did nothing? Then striked us from history itself. So I am crazy. Smart guy once told me that the definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over and expecting a different result. The Rikido Sanin, the Sanin Senju Brat, Hashirama and Tabarama, Jiraiya, and Minato have all tried that peace through harmony bullshit. And I am the crazy one. If anything, I am perfectly sane," she screamed at the top of her lungs and then struck the capsule, breaking it wide open. The snake Sanin sank to his knees, tears streaming down his eyes as he whimpered out, "You have killed us all." In the broken capsule, Kira stirred awake. Her burning yellow serpentine eyes snapped open. She rose up, her bare feet touching the floor. She looked at Kushina in curiosity. Her first instinct was to eviscerate the woman before her, but unlike her creator and his meat sacks for servants, this woman smelled intoxicating. She let out a loud screech, causing glass to shatter, and with speed equivalent to the Yondaime Raikage, jumped in the air to pounce upon the Uzumaki woman. Kushina drew her katana and muttered with glee, "This is going to be fun. I'll teach you to behave, little one." The snake Sanin watched helplessly as the two beings he feared most were about to clash. Last time the snake Sanin sank to his knees, tears streaming down his eyes as he whimpered out, "You have killed us all." In the broken capsule, Kira stirred awake. Her burning yellow serpentine eyes snapped open. She rose up, her bare feet touching the floor. She looked at Kushina in curiosity. Her first instinct was to eviscerate the woman before her, but unlike her creator and his meat sacks for servants, this woman smelled intoxicating. She let out a loud screech, causing glass to shatter, and with speed equivalent to the Yondaime Raikage, jumped in the air to pounce upon the Uzumaki woman. Kushina drew her katana and muttered with glee, "This is going to be fun. I'll teach you to behave, little one." The snake Sanin watched helplessly as the two beings he feared most were about to clash. Chapter 3: Hostile Takeover. In a flash of white, Kira bounded across the room, with raw speed that could give the Yondaime Raikage a run for his money. Kushina grinned madly, then cringed as she felt a sharp pain in her arm. She looked down and noticed a bite mark. Girl is even faster than I thought," muttered the redhead, and then she noticed the flesh was becoming black and sickly around the bite area. The violet-eyed woman frowned and realized it to be necrosis. Nasty. "That bite of yours must be highly toxic. Fortunately, that's not a real problem for me." With a smirk, she focused her potent Uzumaki chakra around the infected flesh, and the black tissue fell off with a wet splat, revealing smooth, untouched baby soft skin. "Pure Uzumaki regeneration, sweetheart." Kushina spoke triumphantly, causing the pale cannibal to look at her with a hint of amusement. Kira let out a sharp screech, making the Uzumaki woman cringe in pain from the screech. Kira charged again, this time aiming her teeth at Kushina's jugular. But this time the redhead was prepared and slashed Kira with 3 successive strikes. Black and purple sprayed about, falling to the floor and against the Uzumaki's flesh, making sharp hissing and crackling sounds as it melted through the floor and the evil Uzumaki's body. She frowned again in disappointment. "Honestly, I just bought these nice clothes a few days ago. Now they're all ruined, though that acid is pretty interesting." With a huff, she focused her chakra, mending the melted flesh. The poisonous girl turned towards her quarry, asking in a dead and emotionless tone, "Why are you so worried about clothes? Why are you not more concerned about your life?" The redhead then noticed that the wounds on the girl's body had immediately closed up. High-speed regeneration. I guess Orochimaru hoped that would prevent the rotting from when he switches bodies. "Well, to answer your question, I don't care if I live or die. The yellow-eyed girl asked in a perplexed tone. You don't care? She was genuinely baffled because every single meat sack she devoured had pleaded for their lives, begging to be spared. Correct. How can I call myself a woman? If I abandon my own child, I barely sleep, and when I do, I see the face of my newly born child staring at me, accusing me. Food has no taste, yields no pleasure. I'm not alive. Not really. I'm just a husk walking about and making it every day, wanting to avenge my fallen clan and ruin and destroy the village that made my child suffer. And if my son wants me to pay him with my life, I'll cut open my stomach, castrate myself, and throw myself off a mountain while using my own intestines as a noose, all without hesitation. Till then, I'll keep fighting against the backwards village, Konoha. Kushina ranted in a grave tone. Something fluttered in Kira's. This woman was not soft or weak. She was not a doll, or a meat sack, or a liar. This woman was something far more. Warmth flooded the cannibal's heart. She was feeling things she hadn't felt before. Sorry for holding back on you, sweetheart. I was testing your strength. Now I'm going to test your weakness, spoke Kushina, and with a quick slash the lab was cut in half, and Kira's left arm sailed through the air, gushing black and purple acidic. The limb fell to the floor with a plop. In that moment, bones began forming from the bleeding stump. Then muscles knitted themselves around the developing bones, tightening around them and keeping them in place. Then flesh formed, and finally pale white skin. Impressive. You can grow back limbs too, and judging by the lack of reaction, you don't feel pain at all, do you? Asked the redhead with a grin, causing Kira to nod in confirmation. I thought so. Read something in a book about that. Some people born with, what was it called? Yes. Congenital insensitivity to pain don't develop correctly. Since they can't feel pain, they are unable to acknowledge or empathize the pain of others. Something of the like, I believe. Fascinating, yes, the redhead asked in amusement. I don't care about such things. The clone sociopath spoke in a dead tone as she picked up several blast shards, then pounced on the Uzumaki woman. I think I'm done playing, spoke the redhead, and in a fraction of a second severed all four of Kira's limbs, making her body fall to the ground in a geyser of her. The floor melting around her along with the lab equipment and parts of Kushina's flesh that was already regenerating. Now lay down there and listen up. You have a lot of potential and primal fury, but it means nothing without skill. You want to kill and be strong? Well, I can provide you with both targets and training. Serve me, be my subordinate, and we'll make Konoha burn. The redhead offered with a savage grin that threatened to split her face. As the snake girl lied in a pool of her acidic, waiting for her limbs to grow back, she wondered. No one, not even her maker, had managed to put her in a position like this. And what she offered sounded intriguing. With that she nodded in acceptance, acknowledging this woman as her superior. Great, now it's time to clean house. Oh, Yukichin, where do you think you're slithering off to? Yelled the Uzumaki as she and Kira turned to face the Sannin, who was attempting to crawl away. That's a no-no. I don't like men that don't have any balls. I think you need a little lesson. At last Kira got off the floor, new limbs already grown, and instead of a cold and blank look, she smiled broadly. It was then Orochimaru's screams echoed throughout Odo. The next morning, Kabuto had returned from Konoha, on his way to Odo to give Orochimaru a report on the increasingly lax defenses of Konohagakure. He stopped all of a sudden when he noticed a crowd of Odo nin in the square. They were all looking up at something. The silver-haired nin followed their gaze and promptly gaped in horror. Orochimaru's severed head with the lower jaw hanging loosely was impaled on a pole, reaching high where everyone could see, and on a rooftop adjacent to the pole was Kushina the evil Uzumaki, and beside her was Kira, the most dangerous and unstable of all of the Snake Sannin's experiments. Kushina looked down at the crowd and shouted, "Hello Odo, this is your new leader, me Kushina. Here's how things are gonna work from here on. What I say goes. Don't like it, then you can get the hell out of my village or fight me and die. Your call. Only ones who can't leave are Orochimaru's elite guard, the ones branded with that amateurish seal." At that 5 nin appeared before her, and 1 Gyurin appeared to the side. Kushina smirked and continued, "Here's the thing. You can submit to me and serve me, and I'll painlessly remove that ugly hickey. Refuse, and you're gonna die. Either way, those curse marks need to go. I can't risk that pasty-faced pedo to slither away." At that one, Kimimaro shouted angrily, "How dare you murder Orochimaru-sama? How dare you think on destroying the marks to which he may be revived? You're going to die." At that one, Teiua spoke up, "Are you shitting me? Do you even know who that is? That's Kushina, the evil Uzumaki. She eats faggots like you for breakfast. Hell no, I'm not dying for that asshole Sannin, not for this." With that, the foul-mouthed girl ran to the side beside 1 Gyurin, both of whom were going to stay out of this slaughter. "Smart move, girlie. You're gonna live long, happy, and healthy," spoke the Uzumaki as she brandished her new trophy, the Kusanagi. The bone user and his fellow curse mark bearers glared at Teiua for being so cowardly. They'd deal with her later. With a roar, 1 Jirobo transformed into his stage 2 form and charged at Kushina, clenching his fist in preparation to smash her head in. "Stay there, honey. This won't take long," spoke Kushina as she leapt down, causing a small blush to appear in the snake user's face. Not used to such affectionate nicknames, the redhead grinned as she liked the feel of the Sannin's blade. Her grin became almost feral as the transformed nin smashed his fist against her face. 1 second cheered, expecting the woman's head to be mush. When Jiraiya withdrew his fist, he blanched at seeing that the only damage he had done was giving her a wide nose. That didn't hurt, she spoke triumphantly, causing the crowd of Odo residents to gape and scream out as their eyes bugged out. She took that head on and didn't flinch. What a woman. With a growl, he threw a barrage of blows towards Kushina's face, hoping to kill her quickly. She stood her ground, not flinching in the slight. After at least a minute of throwing his strongest punches, Jiraiya had worn himself out. The evil Uzumaki stood strong and spit out a small glob of and said proudly, "Doesn't hurt. Those empty fists of yours, that hold nothing but empty reasons and misplaced faith, could never harm me. Perhaps it's time for you to vanish." In a swift motion, the severed head of Jiraiya went sailing through the air, landing at one Kidomaru's feet. "Anyone else want to fight a pure Uzumaki?" asked Kushina with total confidence, causing a number of Odo nin to back away in fear. It was then that Kidomaru II approached to challenge her. The redhead grinned and spoke honestly. "Men like you, that pervy Jiraiya, and my useless husband are all worthless. Only able to eat, shit, and orgasm like primates." At that, the 2-3, including one Yukon Odo nin, bristled in anger. And in Konoha, a certain frog Sannin felt a hammer blow to his pride. "Well, whatever. You're all gonna die," spoke the evil Uzumaki, readying the claimed Kusanagi. Meanwhile, it's wine Anko, whose soul had recently been converted into a demon, and she was lying across the desk of an empty classroom with her trench coat removed. "Yeah, sorry about that, but believe me that it's worth it," spoke one Naruto as he smiled at her, rather enjoying her current position. "Yeah, whatever, I'm gonna." She trailed off when she saw a flashing light on a rooftop. On closer inspection, it was actually a telescope. Sunlight was reflecting off of it, revealing Jiraiya. That disgusting perv was watching. The blonde glared at the direction of the Sannin. He could understand being perverted, since he himself was enjoying the view of Anko's not-so-hidden ass, but he hated perverts that didn't hold any respect for women or their privacy. "Deal with him, Anko," he spoke in an irritated tone. The snake user cracked her knuckles and replied with immense pleasure. With it, she grabbed her trench coat and then appeared on the designated rooftop in a swirl of leaves. "You best be prepared, Jiraiya. I'm gonna shove my foot so far up your virgin ass I'll be using your O-ring as an ankle bracelet." The frog Sannin sweated slightly at his blunder. He had hoped to save his research of the day for later, but now it may be his only defense. "I wouldn't do that, Ankochin. Not unless you want these shown to the press." From his shirt he pulled out a series of photos, showing Naruto rubbing his hands over her body as he converted her soul into a demon. "You do know what happens to people that get labeled as a pedophile. Even if proven innocent, it follows them around for life. I'm sure we can make this go away, for the right price." He spoke the last part with a lecherous grin. A shiver ran up the snake mistress's spine. She knew he was right. This could possibly destroy her entire career or even her very life. But something snapped inside her. Years of the village's torment and Jiraiya's Yule harassment came boiling over. She clenched her fist so hard that her fingernails drew. Her face flushed deeply in pure rage as she spoke. "Go ahead. Do your worst." Jiraiya grinned triumphantly and spoke in "I'm superior to you" tone. "That's what I thou." "Wait, what the did you just say?" He screamed the last part, his eyes widening to dinner plates. "I said go ahead. My reputation as the snake whore can't get any worse as it is. I have men banging on the door at night wanting to screw me for a few lousy bucks, so go ahead, release those to the public. I don't even care anymore, and to be frank, I would much rather be labeled a pedophile than be reduced to the slave of a pathetic, worthless, useless, lecherous old man that has no respect for women and their privacy. If it wasn't for your half-assed spy network or your toad summons, you would have no purpose as a shinobi. And if it wasn't for that disgusting porn you write for a living, you'd be penniless hell. Maybe I will Naruto-sama and give him my virginity if only just to spite you, so go ahead. I don't care. Only a worthless faggot like you would stoop to blackmail just to get your rocks off." She ranted angrily, and when she was done she panted and stomped off angrily, not even bothering to punch out the frog Sannin's lights. Said Sannin was furious. "Talk that way to me, will you, slut? I'll teach you and your boy toy to respect your betters," he muttered under his breath, desiring revenge for her verbally tearing him apart, which felt worse than a Tsunade chakra-empowered punch to the balls. With that, he decided to take this straight to the Sandaime. Back in Odo, Kimamoru lay on the ground, his body broken and sliced to pieces, the others excluding Tayuya and Guren having already been slaughtered. He panted tiredly and spoke while coughing. "You are a monster." The evil Uzumaki grinned, replying, "Damn right I am, and proud of it." With it, she gripped the bone user by the hair and drew a kunai. A long guttural scream rang out through Odo as Kushina scalped the bone user. In the sidelines hidden inside the crowd, one Kibuto Ikushi nearly lost his breakfast. He was not squeamish. He had participated in numerous inhumane experiments with the snake Sannin. But now, he was witnessing true cruelty. Pure, unfathomable cruelty. The scream stopped when at last Kushina ripped the scalp free, raising it high in the air for all to see as dripped onto her face. "This is the law of Odo. Submit to me or be made an example of. Whatever gods or deities you worshipped are now dead. Starting now, I am your goddess, and you had best pray you don't join this pathetic zealot." One by one the residents of Odo bowed to her, a few audibly begging for their lives. Amidst the crowd, Kibuto fled, hoping to find a way to bring Orochimaru back. or surpass him. Kushina, however, had already noticed him and said to Kira in a curt tone, "Kill him." With a howl, the crazed cannibal chased after her creator's apprentice, fully hoping to enjoy her next meal. In Konohagakure 1, Anko was in the council chambers. The civilian council was not present due to all its members mysteriously falling ill. The Kunoichi was being put on trial for misappropriate conduct and Yule conduct with a minor. The Shinobi Council maintained neutral expressions. They all knew Anko personally to some degree or another, and all knew there was more to this than being said. Hiruzen cleared his throat and recited the charges and report placed by Jiraiya, followed by the photographic evidence. When he finished, he asked, "How do you plead?" She was about to say not guilty, but the door burst open, revealing a raven-haired woman in a business suit. She smiled and shouted while pointing an accusatory finger at the frog Sanin, "My client pleads not guilty." At that, the present council and Hokage glanced at the snake mistress, who looked equally confused. "Apologies for my lateness in representing my client. Naomi Misora, Esquire, legal representative for Shinobi. At your service." She smiled and passed about small business cards to the Shinobi Council. They were all dumbfounded. They had heard the name before. She was a well-known and very dependable lawyer that worked exclusively for Shinobi clientele. Some say she served as an Anbu in Kusa before gaining a rare early retirement. But I, Anko sputtered but was cut off by the lawyer. "Hush, Anko-san, don't worry about my fee. It has already been waived. Now what say we get to business?" She asked at the end with a smirk while adjusting her black silk necktie. Of course, I trust you are already aware of the charges and whatnot," Hiruzen asked, stunned that Naomi was representing Anko. "But of course, Hokage-sama, and I am aware of the alleged evidence as well." She spoke confidentially. "Alleged these pictures show." Jiraiya attempted to protest, but the lawyer silenced him with a raised hand. Then Zepok, did you not take actual photographic evidence of my client engaging in Yule intercourse with Academy student Naruto Uzumaki? The frog Sanin stammered for a few moments, but finally replied in a reluctant tone, "I did not." A series of murmurs washed over the Shinobi Council as they gave the Sanin a glare of suspicion. "And did you not blackmail Anko-san for the removal of her now non-existent curse mark in exchange for Yule favors, and she violently rejected you, yes or no?" she asked while removing a pair of leather gloves. The Sanin's stance crumbled further as he replied with a small yes. Naomi Hmed for a moment, then spoke with a grin, "Ladies and gentlemen, this whole trial in itself is a farce, a ruse for a sick pervert to gain some form of petty revenge against my client. She and Naruto-san have been friends for some time. They haven't done anything of an inappropriate nature. My client is a young woman that works hard at her job for her daily bread. She needs to let her hair down on occasion. What these photos portray isn't a misbegotten relationship of passion between a young woman and a minor, but of a good friend helping her relax and relieve the built-up tension in her body. No Yule innuendo intended." The Shinobi Council all turned in their seats and glared angrily at both Jiraiya for attempting to do this to Anko and wasting their time, and at Hiruzen for indulging in the Sanin's request for this trial. Hoping to quickly save face, the Sanin banged a gavel and announced cleared of all charges. And with that he rushed out the door, followed by his student. With a smirk, Naomi shoved Anko out the door, then shut it behind them. She laughed heartily, sorry for dropping in unannounced like that. But the looks on their faces was priceless. "Aha," the snake mistress let out a weak chuckle, then asked, "Thanks for the help, but who the hell waived your fee?" The lawyer smiled and replied in a rather snarky tone, "A mutual friend of ours. Let's suffice it to say I had some problems with conspiracy theorists thinking I was still pulling for Kusa, and our friend made my problems go away." She caught on to the lawyer's meaning and gave a stiff nod of understanding. "Well, the king of the Crossroads does need a legal representative for himself. That's where I come in. Hey, I'm already having fun at this whole dealing business." The snake mistress chuckled. She was already liking the perks. She got into some trouble and her new boss was already bailing her out. Speaking of her boss, what was he up to? Meanwhile, Kizashi Haruno's eyes shot wide open in panic. He found himself strapped to some kind of chair. In front of him was a small table. On his left and right were two separate decks of playing cards. In front of the left deck was one Haruka Yumino. On the right was a small girl, whom fit the description his daughter Sakura gave him. Long and straight black hair, and bright crimson eyes that almost never seemed to blink. "Ayimba, Hasten, what is the meaning of this?" asked Haruka, whom struggled against his own bonds. Ai looked at them both impassively. AMD answered, "Welcome to the Hell Games. It is here you shall be granted a second chance at life, or damned to the torments of hell by the one whom you wronged." With a snap of her fingers, the lights blinked on with a loud "C." The two men gasped at their surroundings, which had the likeness of a luxurious casino but was, in a single word, corrupted. The slot machines were broken and in disrepair, the ceiling had water damage, and the carpets were discolored and in tatters. From their position they could tell they were in some kind of a small arena, the type often used for poker tournaments. A spotlight shone on the top of the stairs, revealing the silhouette of a young man leaning on a walking cane. He chuckled and stepped down the stair, revealing himself to be Naruto Uzumaki. He was dressed in an all-black business suit, a pocket watch chain sticking out of one of his pockets. He wore a crimson silk tie, a white dress shirt, and a black vest. The cane appeared to be steel, but was colored much like a black pear. On the top of the cane was a shimmering skull with rubies for eyes. "Afternoon, gents. I was feeling a little bored, so I decided to take retribution. The blonde spoke with a wide grin as the hell girl summoned a luxurious chair for him and pulled it out for him to sit in. When he sat down, she pushed it back into place, then resumed her original spot. I hope you know how to play blackjack, gents. Standard over 21 busts rules apply. But there's a few twists, like the stakes being your souls. He spoke with a shark-like grin. Hey brat, don't joke around here, this is too much for a prank, I'll have you arrested for kidnapping. Kazashi yelled angrily. Naruto huffed and replied, "Ah, boo-hoo, way to spoil my fun. Well, if you want out so badly, then by all means, do attempt to leave." When Naruto finished speaking, the pink-haired man's bonds were unlocked. He rubbed his wrists and angrily stomped off, leaving a confused Iruka, a blonde with a smug grin, and a girl with a blank face. Kazashi walked off into a dark hallway that had an illuminated exit sign and disappeared into the dark. Footsteps sounded again, but this time they were coming back. Kazashi emerged from a second hallway behind Ai's seat. The ex-shinobi HM'd for a moment, then muttered HMPH. I must have taken a wrong turn. He turned back into the dark hall and in a few moments reappeared again in another spot. He then went back to try again. No matter how many times he tried, he kept looping back towards the table where THW other three still sat. Get it, yet you're not leaving till you play. Angie and frustrated, he went back to the seat he was shackled in and asked while trying not to grind his teeth, what were these twists you mentioned? The blonde snapped his fingers, signaling AI to explain. Number cards 210 shall have the value of their numbers. Face cards shall automatically count as 10. Ace cards shall count as 1 or 11. Go over 21 and you lose. There shall be 3 rounds, 2 out of 3 wins. Rounds shall continue until one player busts or gains 21. Additionally, there are 2 new cards added into the deck. An angel card that shall automatically bring the total of your hand to 21 regardless of your hand's value, making an instant win. And the devil card, which is an instant death card. In short, if it is drawn, then you lose automatically. There is one final rule. You must choose which dealer to receive a card from per turn. Kazashi glared at the boy across from him. The punk-haired man had played some card games before, but he could tell that final rule was to provide a dilemma. Should he choose the girl who could possibly be helping the brat, or choose the hapless Chunin who was clearly in a not-so-good position? Before we get started, I gotta know, why are you doing this? Naruto Iruka asked, wondering if he might appeal to his students. The blonde replied in a casual manner, different reasons. In Kazashi's case, he has been sabotaging me from the jump. His attempts increased more when he learned I was sharing classes with his daughter. As for you, well, during my years in the academy, you knew about my issues, about Kyuubi, but not once did you ever help me. Actually help me. The scarred Chunin gulped and stated, but Naruto, I couldn't afford to show any favoritism. At that statement, the skull on the blonde's staff came to life and began cackling, liar, 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 haha. The blonde smirked and spoke. The skull laughs when someone attempts to lie to me. I had it specially ordered. The Chunin sweated bullets at that. Was it really seeing through him, or was it some kind of trick? Nothing made sense at the moment. Well, enough of that. By the way, there's one more thing you need to know. One of these decks is linked directly to your heart, Kazashi. If you can figure out which, your odds of living shall exponentially increase. Now let's play. Iruka's deck. Deal hand. The blonde spoke. On command, the Chunin's hand moved against his will, drawing 2 cards and placing them in front of the blonde. It was a 9 and a 7, making a total of 16. The ex-shinobi grimaced, wondering what the boy meant by a deck being linked to his heart. The two looked the same, the tops of the cards being black as midnight. With a grunt, he decided to play Iruka's deck. Deal hand. Once again, the Chunin's hand was forced to move against his will. A king and jack, making a 20. The ex-shinobi grinned widely. The only way the brat could win was by getting a 20 or 21. But the only way he could do that was getting a 4, 5, or an angel. The blonde smirked and spoke. Ai's deck. Hit me. The hell girl's hand moved on its own and drew a 2. Kazashi was stunned. He had expected that the brat would cheat and draw an angel, but he hadn't. With a scowl, he growled out, stay. This made the blonde grin and speak triumphantly. Iruka's deck. Hit me. Again, a new card was drawn, and it was a 3, bringing the total to 21. Naruto had won the round. You cheated. You somehow know what cards are going to be drawn, accused the ex-shinobi. The blonde scratched the side of his face and replied, to be frank, you are both wrong and right. You see, the Hell Games isn't just a game. It is a kind of test, and I'm not the one being tested. I didn't know what cards would be drawn, but I did know that I couldn't lose. There's only one way for you to win. You've got to dig real deep and find the solution. At that, Kazashi growled and barked out, Ai's deck. Deal hand. The Hell Girl's hand moved and sent 2 cards towards the council member. A 2 and 8, making 10. Kazashi smirked. All he needed to guarantee victory was an ace or angel card. But then his smirk fell. What if there wasn't a way for him to win? He just couldn't figure out what the boy meant by digging deep for the solution, nor about one of the decks being linked to his heart. Here he was sitting in some weird rundown casino, playing against the offspring of that woman. Yes, he knew whose child Naruto was. He could always see it in the brat's eyes. That same sense of superiority, that same pair of eyes that showed a deep intelligence mixed with a primal fury. That same smile, that same laugh, that same posture that said, I will always win. The boy was definitely Kushina's child. During his time as a shinobi, he once was in a platoon of shinobi. Kushina was their leader. then she was the best damn platoon leader one could ask for. Tough but fair to her troops, always got the job done, never lost a soldier to the enemy. But despite her success, he saw her true face, the face of a sociopath with no regard or value for human life outside of anyone linked to or sympathetic to the Uzumaki clan. He witnessed her taking trophies from her kills. She would cut off their ears to make a necklace, or scalp them and clip them onto the scabbard of her katana. One time she tortured a traitor to Konoha who was selling information to Iwa. She laughed as she stabbed the spy repeatedly in the groin. Laughed, like it was some kind of joke. He confronted her about it and she said that she was having fun. There was no remorse whatsoever. Kushina was the most vile and evil and twisted woman he had ever known. Since then he resolved to quit the shinobi, become a council member and do everything in his power to ensure the destruction of Uzumaki clan. Even if he had to destroy one goddamn Uzumaki brat who just wouldn't die. The deck in front of AI glowed a dark purple color. It was then Kazashi had figured it out. His memories and emotions affected the deck. He was about to make his move, but the king of the Crossroads spoke. "I wouldn't do that, Kazashi. I really wouldn't." Ignoring the brat, the ex-shinobi ordered, "Eyes deck hit me," he roared, expecting to draw an angel. But instead it was a devil. The devil on the card came to life and began dancing about and cackling evilly. Then it reached through the card and dragged Kazashi in. With the clap of thunder and a bright flash of light, the devil card showed Kazashi in the place of the devil. Seems his heart was so tainted with bitterness and anger. It proved to be his undoing. "Now, it's your turn to play, Iruka." The blonde spoke menacingly as the seats rearranged themselves so that the Chunin sat across from the blonde and AI sat between them. The blonde spoke again with a grin this time. "Standard game of poker. 1 round only." He snapped his fingers, signaling AI to deal the cards. She gave them both 2 cards for their hands. As she shuffled the deck to place the 3 cards on the table that could make or break Iruka's future, he had a decent guess the second deck that was being used was linked to his own heart. He looked back and remembered his parents. He loved them both so much, and both were ninja under some red-haired woman's command. He had only met their commander one time, but he couldn't remember the name. But she gave him an uneasy feeling. Then came the night of October 10th. He remembered it like it was yesterday. He saw the Kyuubi's wrath in person. He remembered being pulled to safety by some Chunin or someone. When the attack was over and the Hokage sacrificed his life to seal away the Kyuubi, he learned about Naruto, and shortly after that, about his parents. Why did Naruto get to live and not his own parents? Why did the boy have to live and breathe in the village Iruka's parents died for? Why did the brat have to be in his own damn class? It would be better if the boy had just given up being a shinobi and gone away. Or better yet, he should have died so much sooner from Konoha's resentment. The blonde test as he spoke in a bored tone. "Too bad. I was expecting better." Seems that this was a boring game. When AI dealt the cards on the table, to his horror Iruka's hand was a pair of 2s which lost to Naruto's full house. "You know what they say, you're your own worst enemy," spoke the blonde with finality. The Hell Girl got up from her seat, the floral patterns on her kimono seemingly coming to life as she spoke. "Oh damned souls who have caused harm to my master. Perhaps it is time for you to die." A bell chimed and both Kazashi and Iruka found themselves on a small ferry, slowly sailing along as the crimson-eyed girl steered it. They begged and pleaded to her to go back. Kazashi attempted to bribe her while Iruka attempted to appeal to her morality. She ignored them for the most part but spoke as though she were talking to herself. "Plead and beg as you like. Materialistic things hold no value to me. Morality is irrelevant to me. I have a duty to fulfill to my master. You are to be ferried to hell. You had a chance for redemption and squandered it. Goodbye to you both." Meanwhile, somewhere in the woods outside Oto, Kabuto was panting tiredly. He had been running for hours and hours to escape Kira, but so far his stamina was running out, and from the brief glimpses of his pursuer she wasn't showing any signs of stopping. He then remembered she was built to hone in on her prey and could go on for days without need for sleep, or drink, or food. A small part of him cursed Orochimaru for making that damned Kira too perfect. He needed some means of making her lose his scent. So long as she had a lock on his scent she could follow him forever. He leapt down to a nearby stream and began to cover himself in mud and dirt. He then heard twigs snapping. She was close. He quickly threw some leaves onto his muddy body and hid amongst the rocks and moss to hide. He then heard some pebbles clatter. He knew Kira had landed. She sniffed the air for him. She growled when she found his scent had stopped. It was then she decided to rely on her hearing. Her ears twitched as she heard a heavily beating heart nearby. She grinned, vanished in a swirl of leaves. Kabuto sighed in relief, believing she had left. He was about to make a break for it while he had time, but then a cold and pale hand grabbed him by the throat. Lunch, spoke a hungry Kira as she ate her lips. Kabuto's screams rang throughout the forest, scaring numerous birds out from their hiding places. The last of Orochimaru's most loyal followers had met a gruesome yet well-deserved end. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.